It's the ex-husband. That's who cops say murdered a young dentist and his wife in their home. One critical clue led authorities to him. The shocking news breaking as friends and family gathered for their final goodbye to the couple. Les Trent is in Illinois, where the arrest happened, with the very latest.
The surgeon who cops say brutally murdered his ex-wife and her dentist husband appears in court for the first time.
Your name, sir, for the record? Michael McKee.
39-year-old Dr. Michael McKee is charged with premeditated aggravated murder of Spencer Tepe and his wife Monique in Columbus, Ohio. He waived extradition from Illinois, where he was arrested, and will be transported to Ohio. Cops say McKee drove from his home in Chicago to Columbus to commit the murders and drove back to Rockford, Illinois, where he works at a local hospital, a round trip of 800 miles. Arrest documents pinpoint the murders at 3:52 a.m. The couple's 2 young children were left unharmed.
If you're drawn to the stories hidden in the shadows, subscribe to Dark Corner True Crime, where every case has a secret waiting to be uncovered.
It began long before the cold night of December 30, 2025, not with a gunshot, but with 2 lives shaped by love, heartache, and unresolved history. In Columbus, Ohio, Spencer and Monique Tepe were known as a devoted couple and doting parents. They built a life that, to the outside world, looked steady and full of warmth. A successful career for Spencer as a dentist, a home in Wineland Park, and 2 young children who laughed and played just like any other family. But beneath that surface was a past that would come back, not quietly, but with devastating force. Years earlier, Monique was married to another man, Dr. Michael David McKee, a vascular surgeon based in Chicago. Their marriage, which began in 2015, lasted less than a year and ended in divorce in 2017. According to family members and people close to Monique, the relationship had been far from peaceful. McKee's behavior toward her was described as emotionally abusive, an undercurrent of torment that followed her even after their marriage ended. Loved ones said Monique was determined to escape that life, vowing to build something new with Spencer. Yet in the private shadows of that past, McKee's words lingered long after the divorce was finalized. "I'll never leave your life," he allegedly told her, a haunting phrase that for years seemed like the anguished cry of a jilted lover, not a threat written in blood. But as Monique and Spencer's relationship blossomed into a marriage rooted in love and mutual respect, memories of threats and late-night calls sometimes echoed in moments of quiet concern. Friends saw her happiest days with Spencer, but her family knew she had fought to be free. To their close circle, Monique had transformed, more confident, more peaceful, freer than she had been with McKee. She and Spencer married in 2020, celebrated life together, and planned for a future that seemed full of possibility. According to family anecdotes and wedding videos later shared by relatives, the couple's vows were suffused with searing consistency and mutual devotion. They spoke of partnership not as a fleeting moment, but as a lifelong promise. And yet, beneath the normal rhythms of daily life, school drop-offs, dental appointments, family dinner conversations, there was the latent truth that some past ties don't easily dissolve. Some shadows cling to memory like stubborn stains, and when those shadows stir, they can become something far darker than anyone might have predicted, an echo turning into consequence. Little did anyone know that those old words, "I'll never leave your life," would precede one of the most shocking acts of violence Columbus had seen in years. A night that would tear the couple's children from their parents and force a community to search for answers in the crime's chilling silence. Before we continue, I want to welcome you to the channel. Here, we look for the truth in the shadows of cold cases and closed files. If you value this kind of deep dive investigation, please consider subscribing. And as we begin this journey together, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Whether you're joining us from the United States, Canada, Australia, or anywhere else in the world, leave a comment below. It helps us remember that these stories, though local, touch hearts across the globe. The calm of the Columbus winter morning on December 30, 2025, belied the horror that was about to unfold inside the Tepe home. Outside, a thin frost glazed the streets, and the city stirred with its usual hum. But inside the Wineland Park house, a sense of dread, invisible to neighbors and passers-by, had already begun to manifest. Spencer and Monique Tepe's day had started like any other. Breakfast with their 2 young children, a brief discussion about school and schedules, and plans for the dentist's appointments and work commitments. Yet, the day would end with a tragedy that would shock the community and draw national attention. Police reports later detailed the chilling discovery. Officers responding to a welfare check found the couple inside their home, both shot to death. The scene was meticulously tragic, no forced entry, no theft, nothing stolen. It was clear to investigators that this was not a random act of violence but a targeted attack, and the silence of the house afterward felt almost deafening. The children, ages 1 and 4, were miraculously unharmed, a small mercy amid an otherwise unimaginable loss. Surveillance footage from nearby streets later became a critical piece of the puzzle. A hooded figure, moving with deliberate caution, was captured on camera near the Tepe home in the early hours of the morning. Every step, every pause told a story of intent. Investigators would later identify the person in the footage as Dr. Michael David McKee, Monique's former husband. The haunting phrase he once told her, "I'll never leave your life," now carried a literal and terrifying meaning. Neighbors reported nothing unusual at first. No raised voices, no strange cars lingering. And yet, in the moments that mattered, tragedy had quietly entered the home. The police were swift, but even their efficiency could not undo the heartbreak. Every piece of evidence, ballistic reports, digital trails, and phone records, would later weave a chilling narrative of planning, obsession, and unresolved rage. What investigators discovered in the following days painted a portrait of premeditation. McKee's alleged obsession with Monique had not waned in the years since their divorce. Threats, stalking behaviors, and attempts to manipulate and control her life had set the stage for what would become one of the most shocking domestic murders in recent Ohio history. This was not merely a crime of passion. It was a meticulously calculated act that shattered a family and left a community searching for answers. As the night of December 30 came to be remembered, the image of a quiet home turned crime scene lingered in the minds of all who heard the story. The Tepe murders were no longer just a headline. They were a chilling reminder that some shadows from the past can return with lethal consequences. The morning after the Tepe murders, Columbus was left reeling. The police were called to a home now frozen in grief and horror. As investigators stepped inside, the grim reality of what had occurred became immediately clear. Spencer and Monique Tepe, a couple beloved in their community, had been murdered in their own home. The children, thankfully unharmed, were placed in protective custody as detectives began the painstaking process of piecing together the sequence of events. From the outset, investigators suspected this was not a random act. There were no signs of forced entry, no stolen property, and no immediate motive that fit the profile of a burglary or a robbery gone wrong. Every detail pointed towards someone who knew the family. Someone who had access or at least a plan detailed enough to bypass security and avoid detection. The home itself held clues, the precise placement of evidence, the absence of struggle, and the chilling calm of the scene all hinted at careful planning. As detectives followed the trail, surveillance video from the surrounding neighborhood proved crucial. A hooded figure was seen moving near the Tepe home in the early hours of the morning. Each step of this mysterious presence suggested deliberation, as if they were walking not just through the streets, but through a plan already set in motion months, perhaps years, in advance. Witnesses provided fragments of information.
Hi, this is 911. We just got a hang-up call. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm okay. Sorry.
Okay, well, it sounds like you're crying. Do you need police, paramedics, or anything?
No, I'm okay. I promise. I'm just emotional. I'm okay. I don't need nothing.
Well, can I ask what had you call 911 in the first place? Like, were you having an
Cause
argument with
me and my
somebody?
man got into it, but I'm okay, I promise.
Did anything ever get physical?
No.
You guys were just arguing, nobody hit each other?
Yes.
Okay. All right, man. Well, I have the information
Okay.
here. I can go ahead and tell the officers to cancel hitting over to your address there at 1411
Yes,
North 4th Street.
yes.
If
Yes,
anything
I'm
changes,
sorry.
call us back.
Okay.
All right,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you.
And digital evidence slowly began to map a troubling picture. Within days, attention turned to someone from Monique's past. Her former husband, a man whose obsession with her had lingered even after their divorce, became a person of interest. The phrase he had once said, "I'll never leave your life," now took on a terrifying weight. Authorities coordinated across state lines, connecting pieces of evidence that ultimately led to his arrest. The suspect, a highly trained surgeon, had meticulously plotted his movements, yet law enforcement's persistence and dedication ensured that justice moved closer with every passing day. The arrest sent shockwaves through the community. Friends and family, still grappling with grief, struggled to reconcile the image of a loving family with the reality of such calculated violence. Yet even amid the heartbreak, the investigation offered a glimmer of hope that even in darkness, truth could be uncovered and accountability could prevail. The Tepe murders were a chilling reminder that obsession can turn lethal, but they also demonstrated the power of methodical investigation to bring clarity to the shadows. After the arrest of Monique's former husband, the spotlight shifted from the crime scene to the courtrooms of Ohio. The community that had been shocked into silence now watched closely as the legal machinery began to unfold. Prosecutors described the murders as a premeditated, targeted attack, painting a picture of calculated obsession that had escalated into violence. Every detail of the investigation, from surveillance footage to digital evidence and witness statements, became part of the narrative to show motive, planning, and intent. The accused, a respected surgeon in his profession, faced charges that carried the gravest consequences under Ohio law. The courtroom became a stage where past relationships, threats, and patterns of behavior were scrutinized in painstaking detail. Attorneys debated the implications of prior harassment, emotional abuse, and the haunting phrase that had once been dismissed as words but now echoed like a sinister prophecy: "I'll never leave your life." Each testimony, each piece of evidence, served as a thread connecting the suspect to the crime, reinforcing the case for premeditation. Outside the courtroom, the community wrestled with conflicting emotions. Neighbors and friends who had known the Tepes as a loving family struggled to understand how such violence could erupt behind the doors of an ordinary home. Vigils were held, and social media became a space for people to express grief, support the children, and demand justice. The story resonated far beyond Columbus, as viewers across the country followed the investigation and trial with a mix of horror and fascination. People were compelled not just by the brutality of the crime, but by the psychological complexity of a relationship twisted into obsession and vengeance. As the legal process unfolded, the case highlighted the importance of thorough investigation, interstate coordination, and meticulous courtroom preparation. Prosecutors and detectives worked tirelessly to ensure that every angle of the crime was examined, every detail documented. The trial became more than a legal proceeding. It was a testament to the pursuit of truth in the face of darkness, a reminder that even in the most shocking cases, justice demands patience, diligence, and unwavering attention to detail. For the Tepe family and their community, the trial was also a form of reckoning. It forced confrontation with grief, fear, and loss, but also offered the hope that accountability could follow even the most calculated acts of violence. As the courtroom doors opened and closed, the story of Spencer and Monique Tepe served as a chilling reminder. Obsession, when left unchecked, can turn lethal, but truth, persistence, and justice can shine a light in even the darkest shadows. The Tepe murders left a void that no investigation or courtroom proceeding could fully fill. In the wake of that tragic December morning, the focus shifted from the crime itself to the lives forever altered by it. Spencer and Monique's children, just toddlers at the time, were suddenly thrust into a world of uncertainty. Removed from the home they had always known, they faced the unimaginable reality of growing up without their parents. Family members and close friends became their guardians, trying to provide stability and comfort while grappling with their own grief. The community also felt the weight of the tragedy. Columbus, usually a city of ordinary routines and familiar faces, was forced to confront the dark potential lurking even in seemingly safe neighborhoods. The Tepes had been a family many admired, and the realization that obsession and past trauma could escalate into lethal violence shook neighbors, friends, and even distant observers who followed the case. Vigilance, awareness, and conversations about emotional abuse and warning signs became part of the community dialogue, highlighting that prevention often begins long before tragedy strikes. For law enforcement and investigators, the Tepe case became a lesson in persistence and thoroughness. Every piece of evidence, from digital trails to eyewitness accounts, had to be meticulously gathered to ensure accountability. The arrest and prosecution of Monique's former husband demonstrated how careful coordination and methodical investigation can bring justice, even in cases with complex personal histories and hidden motives. Yet the case also reminded authorities and the public alike that no amount of preparation can undo the human cost once a crime has occurred. The Tepe murders stand as a chilling cautionary tale. They illustrate the devastating consequences of unresolved obsession, the warning signs of domestic harassment, and the importance of vigilance in relationships. But beyond the horror lies a message of hope. Even in the darkest circumstances, justice can prevail, communities can come together, and stories can be told so that victims are remembered, lessons are learned, and vigilance is maintained. As the shadows of the past continue to linger in memory, the legacy of Spencer and Monique Tepe endures not just in sorrow, but in the determination to seek truth, expose hidden dangers, and protect those we love. Their story reminds us all that darkness may exist, but the pursuit of truth. The Tepe murders were more than a crime of violence. They were the tragic culmination of obsession, control, and unresolved emotional turmoil. As investigators and psychologists examined the case, it became clear that the actions of Monique's former husband were rooted not only in personal grievance, but also in a persistent fixation that had escalated over years. What began as emotional abuse and manipulation ultimately transformed into a meticulously planned act of lethal violence, showing how past relationships can harbor dangers that may remain hidden until it's too late. Experts emphasize that cases like this are rarely sudden. They are often preceded by warning signs that, if recognized early, could prevent escalation. Threats, stalking behavior, excessive monitoring of communication, and emotional intimidation are all indicators that someone may pose a real risk. For Monique, the chilling phrase, "I'll never leave your life," was not an idle promise. It was a precursor to tragedy. It serves as a stark reminder that words, particularly those rooted in obsession and control, should never be dismissed lightly. For families and communities, the Tepe case underscores the importance of vigilance and awareness. Friends, neighbors, and loved ones often sense subtle changes in behavior or increasing tension, and speaking up, reporting harassment, or seeking professional support can be life-saving measures. The story of Spencer and Monique also highlights how abusers can operate behind a facade of normalcy. The accused was a respected surgeon, known in professional circles, yet private behaviors may tell a far darker story. True crime is more than intrigue. It is a lens through which we can learn about human behavior, warning signs, and the consequences of unchecked obsession. While the deaths of Spencer and Monique cannot be undone, their story teaches vigilance, compassion, and awareness. It challenges us to recognize that sometimes danger lies not in strangers, but in those who once held a place of trust and love. Ultimately, the Tepe case reminds us that the shadows of the past can linger far longer than we expect. But by learning from these stories, by understanding the warning signs, and by taking action when necessary, we honor the victims and work to prevent similar tragedies in the future. In the shadows of crime, knowledge is the light that can save lives. The story of Spencer and Monique Tepe is one that lingers long after the headlines fade. It is a story of love, loss, and the deadly consequences of obsession that refuse to remain in the past. From the quiet moments of family life to the terrifying intrusion of violence, the Tepe murders remind us that danger can often hide behind familiar faces and long-forgotten relationships. The haunting words, "I'll never leave your life," once thought to be the ramblings of a bitter ex, became a chilling prelude to tragedy, proving that the shadows of the past can reach far into the present. Yet this story is not just about darkness. It is also about vigilance, awareness, and the pursuit of truth. Through the tireless work of law enforcement, investigators, and the justice system, accountability was sought, and the story of the murders was pieced together in painstaking detail. It is a testament to what careful investigation can achieve, and a reminder that even the most calculated crimes cannot completely hide from the light of truth. For the Tepe's children, family, and community, the road to healing is ongoing. Their story urges us to recognize the warning signs, speak out against harassment or obsession, and protect those who may be vulnerable. The Tepe murders are more than a news story. They are a cautionary tale, a call to vigilance, and a sobering reflection on how quickly ordinary lives can be shattered. As we close this chapter on Dark Corner True Crime, remember that every story we uncover, every shadow we illuminate, is part of a larger mission: to honor the victims, educate the community, and bring clarity to the darkest corners of human behavior. If this episode resonated with you, subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from, because though these stories are local, their lessons reach across the world. In understanding the shadows, we can find the light that guides us toward prevention, awareness, and justice.